How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Aleph, Daf 31 of Masechta Kiddushin. Friends. Today we're talking about Kibbud Av V'Em. You know what that is? Alright, let's do it. Alright, we're going to start in Daf Lamed Amud Beis. Choose, we have a shtickle to do on Lamed Amud Beis. The thing is, I stopped where I stopped yesterday because, now we're starting the sugya of Kibbud Av V'Em. I figured, let's just do the whole thing, So that's what I guess maybe it focuses more on kibbud today, and maybe tomorrow kibbud tomorrow is like like fear. There's mora. Anyways, okay, yeah. So anyway, I just figured we'd start with this. Start at the beginning of the sugya because that's what it talks about the whole day. May as well start there. Get it? Good. Okay, it works. Let's do it. All right. Well, okay, so we're going to start on the second of the widest lines on Daf Lamed Amud Beis. Without further ado, Kol mitzvahs of alabein v'chulei. So all the mitzvahs of alabein. What does that mean? My kol mitzvahs of alabein. What does this mean? So ilem kol mitzvahs d'mechayiv abba lemebed livrei. So if we're saying it's the mitzvahs that the father needs to do as an obligation to do for his yingul, for his son, and we're saying that applies both to men and to women. Noshim chayavos, but why would women be chayavos? V'otani, but we learn in a brayso av chayav bivno lamula v'lifdoso ovavin imolo. That the brayso says that a father has a mitzvah to do bris milah for his son and pidyon aben, not the mother. So Omer of Yehuda says Yehuda hachi kamer. This is what it's talking about. Kol mitzvahs of hamutalos ala bein lasos lav. It's talking about the mitzvahs that a son, a yingul, needs to do for his father. And it applies both to yinguls and to maidels. And here we have so we're saying a Mishnah, right? The Mishnah that's saying that Kibbud Av V'Em is for both yinguls and maidels is it's a Mishnah that's expressing what is said in the following. Our Mishnah is basically expressing what we learn in the following verse. It's the Tanu Rabbanan Ish Ein Yala Ish. When it says Ish Imo V'Aviv Tiro, when it says that a fellow needs to fear his father and his mother, so all I know is a fellow. Isha Minayin, how do I know a fellow? Kishu Amr, when the pasuk says Tiro, plural, Harikan Shnaim, so Tiro is plural, so it refers to fellows, fellas, yingles, maidels. Imken, boys, girls. Imken, if that's the case, Matam Lomer Ish, then why does it say fellow? So ish sipek biyad lasos, isha ain't sipek biyad lasos mipnei she'eshu sacher malel. Well, a fellow has the ability to do kibbud av v'em unhindered, whereas a fella, it could she's not necessarily in her own position to be able to do these things, because if she's married, then she's her husband, I guess, yields some kind of influence. Amar Ravidi bar Avin, Amar Rav Nizgashish name Shavim, points out Ravidi bar Avin, the name of Rab. But if she gets divorced, well then, she has just as much an ability to do kibbud av v'em as her brother does. It says, honor your father and your mother. It also says, honor God from your wealth. So we see that the pasuk, that the Torah is comparing kibbud av v'em to the honor, right? The honoring of one's father and mother to the honoring of one's God. Nemar, additionally, the pasuk says, Ish imo vaviv tiro, v'nemar es Hashem lokecha tiro. Oichit, we have one pasuk that says a fellow should fear his father and his mother, and oichit, the pasuk says that a fellow should fear his God. So v'oso tavur, and worship him. Hishva akosu moras of v'im l'moras hamakom. The psukim are comparing fear of one's parents to fear of one's God. Nemar mikalul av v'ima mos yumos. The pasuk says a fellow curses his father or mother, we kill him. V'nemar ish ki yikal loka v'nosacheto. And oichet, the pasuk says, right, it talks about when a person curses the Eibishter. So the pasuk equates cursing one's father and mother with cursing the Eibishter. Aval ba'akah vaday efshar, but certainly you can't compare hitting one's father and mother to hitting one's God, because how do you hit a God? And it makes sense that we should compare honoring, fearing, cursing your father and mother to that of God. Because after all, the father, the mother, and the Eibishter are the three partners in a fellow. That there are three partners in a fellow. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter, Ve'aviv, his father, Ve'imo, his mother. When a fellow honors his father and his mother, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter says, Male ani aleim, I treat it, Ki'ilu daiti b'nei v'chibduni. Wow, I treat it as if I am living among them, and he is honoring me. Very nice. That's famous stuff, by the way, right? There's three partners in a fellow. The Eibishter, the father, and the mother. Famous Gemara. It's also a Gemara in Nida. Tani Rabbi Yomer says, Rabbi, Galav Yadua Lefnemi, Takal Oichet Daf Lamed of Masechta Nida. Daf Lamed Masechta Nida, Oichet talks about the Shal, right? Not Lamed Aleph, okay. Masechta Nida. And there's some interesting Gemaras there in Oichet. I learned that Gemara. I'll tell you, you wanna know some Babylon Talmud history? You wanna know some Babylon Talmud history, Chevra? I'll tell you some Babylon Talmud history. Daf Lamed Aleph Masechta Nida. When I learned this Gemara of the Shlosha Shutfin Ba'adim, I was in Vermont. It was November 2019. I was trying to. That may have been the first. You ready for this? That may have been the first practice episode that I ever did of Babylon Talmud, because Masechta Nida is the last Masechta in Shas. All right, Chaver, did I ever go into this? Oh gosh, I don't want to give a whole story right now, but Be'etzem, about 4 years ago, I had never learned Daf. Oh God, what am I giving a history lesson over here? I'll Kaponim. I had never learned. Am I seriously doing this? Maybe, I don't know. I had never learned Daf Yomi before, and for about 8 years, I had been learning with the Chavrusa, Yosef Gutman Levitt. Maybe some of the people at Babylon Talmud know Yosef Gutman Levitt. He's a good fellow. It was with him that I went to Poland last week. And he and I learned together for about 8 years, Amud Yomi. We were learning in Amud a day. And then I left my job, whatever, where I was working 4 years ago, mamish 4 years ago, right before Rosh Hashanah 2019. And I went traveling for a bit, as you know. When I started Babylon Talmud, I was traveling at that point. Now I don't really go anywhere, but I'll go upon him. So I figured I wanted to be learning when I was traveling. So I figured, okay, maybe I can make a podcast. Why am I getting into this? So because that was about 4 years ago, around August time is when I started thinking about this idea, and then I realized Daf Yomi was starting over, and so then I started just doing Daf Yomi to get the hang of it, see if it's something that I think I could do. And then after that was Me'ila. I started with Masechta Me'ila, and then so then November. Where are we now? We're in September. So around October, November, I made the decision. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. And I went to America then. I wasn't working anymore. I left my job at the beginning of October 2019. So then I went to America in November to pick up some equipment that I'm still kind of using to this day. And when I was in America, I went to, I just wasn't working or anything. So I was just moving around. So, all right, well, I'm there. Let me go away for a few days. So I went to Vermont. And in Vermont, at that Airbnb, I brought the first time, I had gone to B&H the day before. I bought some stuff. It was funny walking into B&H, telling the guy, I'm going to make a Daf Yomi podcast. They're like, you? I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I guess. And so I brought the stuff to Vermont, and the first practice episode I did, that all of this is to say, the first practice episode I did was, I think, this Gemara, right? Daf Lamed Aleph of Masechta Nida. Maybe Daf Lamed. I have it somewhere. It's on. It must be on YouTube. But it's not public or anything. But not really sure where I got into that. But I guess because of this Gemara, that is to say that Daf Lamed Aleph that this comes up, Daf Lamed Aleph of Masechta Nida, which may have been the first practice episode that I had ever done. That is what I was saying. Let's go fight it. Tani Rebbe Omer says Rebbe. And then, there's some very interesting stuff. Maybe when we get up to Masechta Nida, gosh, that's a long way off. But maybe when we get up to Masech Nida, I'll like recycle those episodes. I have a whole bunch of recordings of dafs from like before brachas, because I was practicing. I was in Indonesia. I was also in Yerushalayim. I was like in Yerushalayim and then in Indonesia. That's where, so I have a bunch of practice ones in different places where I was staying. Okay. Tanya, we learn in a Brayso. Rabbi Omer says, Rabbi, is revealed before God that a fellow honors his mother more than his father because she's mishadalto b'dvarim. What does that mean? I don't know. Maybe she's like nice to him. Therefore, the pasuk points out, highlights that you have to honor your father. Right? It mentions honoring your father. First comes the father to highlight the fact that, hey, honor your father too. It's also known before God that a fellow fears his father more than he fears his mother because his father teaches him Torah. What does that mean? He fears his father because his father teaches him Torah and gets upset when he doesn't chap? Or does he have like respect? He fears him because he's a Talmid Chacham. Therefore, the pasuk makes sure to mention, what does the pasuk say? What does it say? I don't know. What's the pasuk by? Ish imo va'aviv tiro. That's what it is. Ish imo va'aviv tiro. That mention fearing your mother first, because you have to fear your mother. Tanitana kamadu of Nachman. A Tana taught before of Nachman. When a fellow upsets his father and his mother, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter says, Yafe asisi shelo darti b'neim. It's a good thing I'm not living among them. She'omli darti b'neim, because if I did live among them, tsiaruni, then I would be upset. I would be hurt. Amar Bitzlach says, Bitzlach all over Avera b'seiser. If a fellow does an Avera in a hidden, in secrecy, ki'ilu dochek ragli shchina. It's as if he's pushing away the legs of God. Shenemar, as the Apostle says, Koyama Hashem, so says God, Hashemayim Kissi, that the heavens are my throne, Va'aretz Hadam Ragloi, and the land is my footstool. And if a fellow does an affair in secret, he's basically pushing away God's feet. Amr B'Yeshua Malevi says, B'Yeshua Malevi, also the Adam Shiahalichai Ba'amas becomes Kufa. It is forbidden for a fellow to walk 4 Amos in a haughty manner. Shenemar, the Apostle says, that the whole land, the entire land is filled with the honor of God. And if you're walking around like you own the place, well then you're basically indicating that God's honor is not there, your honor is there. And therefore that's a conflict, that conflicts. Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua lo mazge arba amis pigili arosh. Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua would not walk 4 amis with his head uncovered. Amar Shechina l'mayla miroshi, because he says that the divine presence is above my head, and I guess therefore he wants to cover his head for some reason, because the divine presence is above his head, show some kind of respect, I guess. Like a bare head, I guess maybe would not be nice for the divine presence to interact with. Shaul ben Almona Achas is Rabbi Eliezer, the son of a widow, asked Rabbi Eliezer, meaning his father was in Wellwood. Abba omer ashkeni moim, that if my father asks me to give him water, v'ima omer ashkeni moim, and at the same time my mother asks me to give her water, ezim me'em kodem, who gets priority? Amalei, so Rabbi Eliezer responds, Hanach kvod imcha v'asei kvod avicha. Give your father first. Shata v'imcha chayim b'chvodcha, because you and your mother both need to honor him. Interesting. B'chvodi avicha. Palefnei Rabbi Yoshua, this orphan came before Rabbi Yoshua, Amar lo, and Rabbi Yoshua says to him, Kach Amar lo Rebbe. I think, if I'm not mistaken, so Rabbi Yoshua basically says exactly in the same way that Rabbi Eliezer says, which is, give to your father first. Nizgar shumau, and then the orphan asks, now what if my parents get divorced? Amar lei, and Rabbi Yeshua says, from looking at your eyes and how much you've cried, I can tell that you are a orphan. And therefore, Rabbi Yeshua realized that he wasn't asking a practical question, because he doesn't have a father. And interestingly, Rabbi Yeshua answered him in kind of a sarcastic way, it sounds like, which is interesting. Give them water in some kind of a water container and coo at them like roosters. Okay. Darash Ula Rabba Apischa de Venesia, Ula Rabba darshaned by the entrance to the Venesia. What does the pasuk mean that all the kings of the land will thank you? That they have listened to the sayings of your mouth. It doesn't say the saying of your mouth. The sayings of your mouth. When the Eibishter said, right, I am Hashem your God, and you shouldn't have any other gods. So the nations of the world said, look, the Eibishter is only interested in his own honor, right? That's what he says. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, lo yeh elecha Elohim acherim. But once God said, honor your father and your mother, so they realized, no, it's not just all about him. So then they went back and took back what they had said and admitted that the first dibros were also proper. Rava Amar says, Rava Me'acha from here, Rosh Dvarcha Emes. The beginning of your words are truthful. Rosh Dvarcha v'lo Dvarcha, the beginning of your words, but not the end of your words. El misov Dvarcha nikr sherosh Dvarcha Emes. That from the end of your words, i.e. from Kabedei Sevicha Vesimecha, it became clear that Rosh Dvarcha, that the first dibris of Anochi Hashem Lakecha and Lo Yeh Lecha Elohim Acherim were oichet truthful. Ba'omine me Rav Ula, they asked Rav Ula, Ad heichon kibud of va'em. Right, how far does the mitzvah of kibud of va'em go? Friends, you ready for something famous? Amar Loim, so Ula says to them, Tzu'u ma'osa oivei kechavim be'echad ba'ashkelon. Go and see what an idolater did, what a certain Oivei Kechavim in Ashkelon did. V'dame ben Nesina shmo. Have you heard of Dame ben Nesina? Pam achas bikshu chacham pragmatio b'shishim riba. One time, the chacham, the sages, were looking to do business for 600,000 currency, a big deal. Sacher v'hayim mafteach munach tachas ma'ashosav shalaviv. The problem was that the key that was needed to open up whatever storage house there was, the key was under the father's bed. It was under the father's pillow, and Dama ben Nesina's, Nesina was sleeping, and Dama ben Nesina did not wake his father up. His father was sleeping; he let him sleep. He didn't bother him. Eliezer, they asked Rabbi Eliezer, to what extent is kibbud avim? Omar lohem. And he says to them, go see what a certain idolater did for his father in Ashkelon. V'dama ben Nesina shmo, his name is Dama ben Nesina. Bikshu mimenu chacham avan le'efod b'shishim ribo sacher. The sages were searching for, were looking to find stones for the ephod, and they were going to pay a lot of money for it. Rav Kana masni b'shmonim ribo. Rav Kana says it was 800,000. Coins. But the key that was required was under his father's head, under his father's pillow, v'tziaro. He did not bother his father. The Shana Acheres, right? So we see that he respected his father so much that he didn't want to wake him up. The Shana Acheres, nasan la'kadosh baruch hu scharo. And 1 year later, so that whole year, right? Dama ben Nesina, as far as he was concerned, he let the deal slip. He gave up on all that money in order to honor his father, to respect his father's sleep, and not to wake him up. And God rewarded him. L'shana acheres, the next year, nasan la'kadosh baruch hu scharo, God repaid him for kibbud av va'em. Shenodu lo para aduma be'idro, that a para aduma, which is a very rare thing, a para aduma was born to Dama ben Nesina. Nichnasu chachmi Yisrael etzlo, and the sages came to Dama ben Nesina. Amar lehem, and he said to them, Yodea ani bachem, I know, shem ani mevakish mikem, kol mammon sheba'olam atem nosnin li. I can name my price. I can tell you whatever price, and you'll pay me. right? Parah aduma is so rare that if you could find one, take one. Take it, and if you need the for parah aduma, you'll pay whatever it costs. But all I ask is just for the money that I gave up, that I forfeited in honoring my father. The Amar Reb Chanina says, Reb Chanina mi she'enu mitzuva v'oseh kach mitzuva v'oseh al achas kama v'chama. And if Dama ben Nesina was an Oved Kochavim and didn't have a mitzvah of Kibbud Av V'Em, and he gets rewarded in such a manner, so certainly a Yid who has a mitzvah of Kibbud Av V'Em al achas kama v'chama, that there's big rewards in store for somebody who's mechabed does Kibbud Av V'Em. Dama Reb Chanina, it says Reb Chanina gadol mitzuva v'oseh because somebody who has a commandment to do a mitzvah and they do the mitzvah, that is a greater madrega than somebody who does a mitzvah but it isn't commanded. Somebody who has the commandment and does it, that's on a higher madrega. Rav Yosef says, Rav Yosef Mereish Hava Amina, initially before I heard about this concept of gadol mitzuva v'oseh misheinu mitzuva v'oseh, so initially Hava Amina, I would say Mandahava Amrli Alacha Reb Yehuda. If anybody would say that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar Suma Potter min HaMitzvahs, the Rabbi Yehuda says that a blind fellow, Rav Yosef of course was blind, that Rav Yosef says initially if somebody would tell me that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that a blind fellow is potter from doing mitzvahs, I would have made a whole big yom tiv for all the rabbis, because if the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that a blind person is potter from all the mitzvahs, and I'm blind and I'm potter from all the mitzvahs, and I'm doing them anyways, so I would have been, I would have been happy. Look, I don't need to do the mitzvahs, and yet I'm doing them. That must be incredible. Hasha de shamisa laha damar b'chanina. But now that I've heard that Reb Chanina says that gadol mitzuva v'oseh yosef mishe'enu mitzuva v'oseh, that actually it's a higher madrega for somebody who has a commandment to do a mitzvah and does the mitzvah. That's on a higher madrega than somebody who does not have the commandment and does the mitzvah. So adrabas, now we say fakert mido amarli de'ein halacha Rabbi Yehuda, that if somebody says that the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda, that blind people are oichit chayiv in mitzvahs, avidnu yom etav l'rabanon, I will make a yom tif for the rabbis because I want to be mitzuva v'oseh, because that's the higher madrega. Ki also Rav Dimi Omar, when Rav Dimi came, he said, one time Dama ben Nesina was wearing some kind of a golden cloak, a silk cloak that was adorned with gold. By Yosef ben Gedolei Romi, and he was sitting among the great people of Rome. Uvasa imo, comes his mother, v'karaito mimenu, and pulls off the cloak, v'tofchal arosho, and knocks him on the head, v'yarka b'fanav, and spits on him, v'lo echlima, and he did not embarrass her. This Dama ben Nesina fellow sounds like a great guy. Tani Avimi Breder Ababo taught, Yesh Maichil Aviv Pisyoni V'Tordim and Olam, you can have a fellow who feeds his fathers the most geshmake foods. What does Rashi say? Of choshev, a very choshev, a bird. Vishomin, it's very fatty. Min slav, it's like the kind of slavs shared by midbar. Geshmake foods. A fellow can feed his father the most geshmake of geshmake foods. V'Tordim and Olam, and yet he's a big nudnik. He's going to be punished. V'yesh matchinu berechaim, and you can have another example of somebody who forces his father to work, and yet he's doing a big mitzvah. And Rashi says that for example, if you have a fellow who buys his father the finest foods, but says, eat, you idiot, so that's not nice. But if you have another father, right, the Rashi records there was a Maaseh that you have this guy whose father was old, and the king came and said he's got to go to like the army or something, and the son's like, look, I'm going to go instead of you, but I need you to grind in the mill. So, that's a good thing. He's saving his life, even though he's making him work. Amar Babo says, Babo, Kigon Avimi Bri, like my son Avimi, Kiem mitzvahs kibud, he's Mekayim, my son Avimi is Mekayim, the mitzvah of kibud of Eim. Chamisha b'nei Samchi Ava Leila Avimi. Avimi had 5 sons who were, it sounds like they were rabbis, B'chai Aviv, during the lifetime of Rabbi Bo. And yet, when Avimi's father Rababo would come, even though Avimi had 5 children, when Rababo was coming and he would call out that he was here, Roid v'ozal, Avimi would run and go, ufasachle, and he would open up the door and welcome his father. V'amar in, and the whole while he would say, yes, I'm coming, adamata, until he arrived, Hossam, to his father. So even though he had 5 kids, he took it upon himself to be mechabed his father. Yom echad omarle, ashkai and maya. One time, Rabbahu said, let's drink water. Ada Aisile, and as Avimi went to go to retrieve the water and to bring it, Nimname Gochin a Nimname. So Rabbahu dozed off. He fell asleep. Gochin Koy Ole Ada Iser, and Avimi Pasha just waited for his father to wake up. Istayeh Milse V'Darsh Avimi Mizma David, and while he was waiting, it wasn't just sitting there doing nothing. It came to him a parish to a kapitel in Tilim. So while he was waiting, he was zeiche to have a ha'ara in Torah. Omar lei Rav Yaakov bar Avua Labai, says Rav Yaakov bar Avua Labai. Kigon now what do I do? When I'm by the time I get back from the Beis Hamedrash, Abba Madli Kasa, my father's already poured for me a cup. V'ima Mazgali, and my mother has also mixed for me together epis to drink. Heichi Avid, what should I do? Should I accept it from them? Is it kibud avim to accept something from them or not? Amalei me'imcha kabel. So Abai says, accept it from your mother. Ume'avuch lo tekabel, but don't accept it from your father. The chivim debar Torah who chal shadai. Since he's a ben Torah, so he might feel bad if he's like serving his son, and maybe it's not so nice. So don't accept it from your father, but accept it from your mother. Interesting. Reb Tarfon avalei ayi ima. Reb Tarfon had a certain mother. I guess that means Betzim he had a mother. That whenever his mother wanted to climb into her bed, Gochin v'salik la, Reb Tarfon would bend down to the floor so that his mother could use him as I don't know, step on him to get onto the bed. I don't know, somehow get onto the bed. Somehow that would be of service to his mother. And when she would get down from the bed, she would, go down onto him, I guess somehow. Basically, it sounds like he was being Moser Nefesh to take care of his mother. Also, Reb Tarfon came to the Beis HaMedrash, and he was talking about how much he does kibud avim. Amrle, they said to him, Adayin lo igaita l'chetzi kibud. That's nothing. Klum zarka arnike b'fanecha leyom v'lo yechlimata. Well, wait until she throws your wallet into the sea, and that'll be the real test. And see what you do then. If you don't embarrass her, then okay, that's kibud avim. Rav Yosef kiava shama kol kare deime. Rav Yosef, when he would hear his mother coming, Omer, he said, Eikum mikame shchina da asyu. I better get up. The divine presence is on its way. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan, Asher Misha lo chamon. So Rabbi Yochanan says that actually fortunate is a fellow who has never seen his parents. Because kibbut avim is so difficult to do, better you should just never see your parents and don't have to get punished for not doing it. Now, Rabbi Yochanan ki ibratu imo meis aviv, yoladto mesa imo. Now Rabbi Yochanan, when his mother conceived him, immediately his father died, and when she gave birth to him, immediately she died. So he never knew his parents. He was an orphan from the time he was born. V'chein Abaye, and similarly, Abaye had a similar situation. Ini, that's over. Amar Abaye, Amar li aim. But Abaye says all the time, Amar li aim, as we've seen on several occasions, that his mother told him. Hayimar binase havai. No, that was his nurse. That was the one who raised him. It wasn't actually his mother. Very interesting. So Rabbi Yochanan and Abaye were both born orphans. Now Rabbi Yochanan also, the Gemara says in Masechta Brachos at the beginning, that 11 of his children died as well. Rabbi Asi Avalei Hayi Imaz Kena. Rabbi Asi's mother was very old. Amrle, and she says to him, Ba'ina tachshitin, I want jewelry. Avlo, so he would make her jewelry. Ba'ina gavra, and she says, I want a husband. So Rabbi Asi says, okay, we'll look into it. Ba'ina gavra the shapir kavasoch, I want a fellow who's as great as you, as beautiful as you. So then he realized that she had dementia, Shavka, and he left her v'azal Eretz Yisrael, and he went to Eretz Yisrael at that point. Shama Dika Azla Abba Asrei, and then Rav Asi heard that his mother was coming to Eretz Yisrael. Also, the come to Rabbi Yochanan. So Rav Asi comes to Rabbi Yochanan, and he says to Rabbi Yochanan, can I go from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, ostensibly to meet his mother? Amalei Osir. Rabbi Yochanan says it's forbidden. Likras ima mau, but what about if I'm going to meet my mother? Amalei eni yodeh. Rabbi Yochanan says, I don't know. Israch Porta, so Rabbi Asi waited a little bit, came back another day. Hadar Asi, he came back to Rabbi Yochanan, Amalei, and Rabbi Yochanan says to Rabbi Asi, Nisatzeis Lotzeis, look, clearly you want to go to Chutz La'aretz. Hamakum yachzircha l'shalom, may the Eibishter bring you back in peace to Eretz Yisrael. Also, the come to Rabbi Lazar. Now, Rabbi Asi comes to Rabbi Lazar, Oichid, a student of Rabbi Yochanan. Amalei, and later Chavrusa. Amalei chaz v'shalom, duma mirsach rosach, and Rabbi Asi says to Rabbi Lazar, I just want to make sure, I hope I didn't get Rabbi Yochanan upset. Amalei may amalach. So Rabbi Lazar says, what did he say to you? What did Rabbi Yochanan say? Amalei amokim yachzircha l'shalom. So Rabbi Asi says that the Eibishter should bring you back to Eretz Yisrael in peace. So Rabbi Lazar says that doesn't sound bad at all. That if Rabbi Yochanan was upset, he wouldn't have blessed you. As we know, also Rabbi Yochanan, right? Rabbi Yochanan was a fiery personality. He killed Rish Lakish, he killed Reb Kahana. When he was upset, people died. But then ultimately Rav Asi heard that his mother's coffin was coming to Eretz Yisrael, that she had passed away. Amr iyadi lo nafki, and he said, well, if I would have known that she died or she was going to die, I wouldn't have left. A fellow honors his father when he's alive, as well as when his father has passed away. Kate said, how does one honor one's father when he's alive? Hanishma b'dvar aviv l'makom. I don't really understand what this means, but basically, if there's some place that he's planning to go to, and he knows that in that place they respect his father, and they might also respect him, but if they respect his father, lo yomar shalchuni b'shvil atzmi, maruni b'shvil atzmi, patruni b'shvil atzmi. He shouldn't make the trip about himself. He should make it about his father, because in that place they respect his father. Alakulu b'shvil abba. Everything should be on account of his father. B'moso keitzad, and how does one respect his father when he's in Wellwood? So hoya omer dvar shmua mipiv, that if he was saying epis in the name of his father, lo yomer kach omer abba, don't say this is what my father said, ela kach omer abba mori harini kaparis mishkavu. You should say this is what my father, my teacher, has said. I am an atonement for his death. But he only says the harini kaparis mishkavu within the first 12 months of his passing. After that, may he be remembered as a blessing for life of the world to come. I believe that this is the acronym, right? Sometimes you see Zichron Levracha and then Lamed Hey Hey. If ever you're wondering, what's Zayin Lamed Hey Hey? Zichron Levracha L'chaya Olam Haba. Remember that. Next time you see it. That if a Chacham is quoting his father or his teacher, interesting. Why did I get that notification? Did I not put it on airplane mode? Maybe it just does that anyways. I hope it didn't affect anything negatively. That a Chacham changes the name of his father and the name of his Rebbe. If he's quoting his father as Rebbe. Turgamon, Einu Mishana Loshim Aviv Loshim Rabba, but the translator, the human microphone, does not change the name of his father or the name of his Rebbe. Avua Daman, whose father and whose Rebbe does the translator not change? Ilim Avua Demiturgman, if it's talking about his own father, Atuturgman Lav Bar Chiyuva, who? What, does the translator not have an obligation of kibbud of aim? Elo Amar Rava rather says Rava Shem Aviv Shel Chacham, the name of the father of the sage, V'Shem Rabba Shel Chacham, and the name of the teacher of the sage, like Mar Bar Avashi, Bepirka. When Mar Bar Avashi was giving a shir, Iu Amar Abamari. So when he was saying to the human microphone, Abamari, right? So he wouldn't say Rav Ashi when he's referring to his father. He would call him Abamari. But Va'amore, but the Mitorgaman would not change the name. Amar Hachi Amar Rav Ashi, he would say this is what Rav Ashi said. So we see that the Maggid Shir would change the name of his father and his Rebbe, but the Meturgaman, who is the human microphone, would use the real name and of the Rebbe and the father. Friends, that was Daf Lamed Aleph, Masechta Kiddushin. Some famous stuff today, right? We're talking about Kibbutz Avim, right? Shlosha Shutfin Ba'adam. We learned the story of Dama ben Nesina. We learned about the story of me buying a microphone and going to Vermont. Gadol Amatzuv Vose, Mishaina Matzuv Vose. We learned about Rabbi Yochanan, Abaye. Very, very interesting stuff. Friends, we're going to continue with Mora, with fear of your father and mother. Some interesting stuff. Tomorrow we're going to continue with some more interesting stuff. I hope you've been enjoying these dafs. I hope you have a great day. Peace out.